It is now coffee time with John. It is 39 degrees outside, and I decided that instead of sitting on the back deck and freezing my butt off, that I was going to come inside and sit at my desk and record this morning's coffee talk. But I like the background. I like the what it looks like um, in my backyard. And so what I did was I went ahead and went out back and took a picture from my back deck and stuck it right behind me so that I could have that background. Um, I want to talk about something that happened yesterday in the comments section on the videos. And the reason I want to talk about it is because I'm looking over here at it so I can read it. But I want to address a couple things about this. So my video the other day was called "God Does Not Have a Plan," and it's a good video because it explains your divinity, explains your power. But people who can't see that they have power will erupt at that because they'll blame others for their issues. They'll blame others for their circumstances. Here's the comment that got put on that video. So you tell me that I create my wife's behavior, that I create my employer's decisions, and I create Donald Trump's influence on America. That is a little hard for me to swallow. I responded to him. I said, no, I did not say that you are creating anybody else's experience, only your own. And he came back. He said, well, these are aspects of my relationship, and you told me that I am creating them. The first part, before I tell you how I answered this, before I discuss how I answered this, first part I want you guys to think about is his use of pointing at me and saying, you told me. That's blaming. He's just trying to blame someone for his circumstance. He's in his situation. He's just trying to blame someone for his circumstance. His whole outlook is that it's his wife's problem, it's his employer's problem, and it's Donald Trump's problem. They are to blame. He's casting blame. He doesn't want to look at the fact that he is actually creating his experience. He doesn't want to look at the fact that if he loved his wife unconditionally, she would have no reason to act in any way other than unconditionally loving towards him. If he treated his boss with respect and tried to assist in growing the business, he might have a different experience with his boss. Or he may decide that the boss just isn't getting it, and he can go start his own successful business based in a loving output. As far as the Donald Trump's influence on America, he's focused on the negative influence. He's focused on the negative aspect of the influence that he sees, that he is focused on. Here's what I wrote in response. Are you focused on your wife's not acting the way you like instead of showing her unconditional love for who she is? So your love has conditions. Are you focused on all the wrong things your boss is doing instead of helping him grow his business or creating a successful business of your own? So you are part of the issue. Are you focusing on Donald Trump's influence instead of a better world? So you empower the negative influences. Your focus is your belief. I believe in a loving world. I am surrounded by loving people, doing work I love, and I see the positive changes coming. I feel your anger and bitterness in your comments. Anger is not love. You are showing the world exactly what you believe. That to me is a powerful statement because his whole argument with me, and the reason he was casting blame on others, is because he didn't want to look at it for himself. He didn't want to address the issues and his own personal beliefs that he was putting into the world. He didn't want to address the fact that he was creating the negative experiences. So it had to be somebody else's problem because he couldn't be wrong. And that's a big statement. Can you in your life not be wrong? Are you casting blame? You know, I was married to a woman, and her uncle told me after when we broke up, he says, I worry about her because she does bad things and justifies them. And it's interesting because when people don't want to look at themselves, they will blame everybody else for all of their issues. When people don't want to look at themselves, they will literally cast blame and fault elsewhere because of the fact that they don't want to take responsibility for the creation of their environment. In this response, I said, I am surrounded by loving people, doing work I love and seeing positive changes in the world. It also says, I believe in a loving world. But I do believe in a loving world. And if you look at my comments section, I get almost no negatives. I mean, in comparison to other video channels I see, I mean, I think my largest video at the time of this recording has 13,000 views, and I think it has 6 negatives, 6 dislikes out of 13,000. You know, I my world is predominantly positive. It's beautiful. It's loving. And the people who are throwing negatives probably because they don't want to look at themselves. They don't want to step into their divinity. They want to hold on to outdated modalities or outdated religions, and say that this is right. And I respect that because they are allowed to create whatever they want, good or bad. It's their experience. It's not my experience. It's theirs. So I wanted to address this today because when I look at this guy's comments, what I see is someone who is not willing to accept the responsibility for his experience. And we all have to accept the responsibility of our experience. We can't constantly look for someone else to solve them for us. We can't constantly look for the outlook of a person to come in and say, hey, I see your abilities. Or someone who's going to come in and say, wow, you could really achieve, right? All this really is the desire to live in a loving world, but instead of focusing on the loving world, focusing on the negative aspects that isn't loving. All this really is putting your belief in a bad world, in a wife who doesn't treat you well, and an employer who makes dumb decisions, and a politician who is creating turmoil. That's all that focus is on. That's all that belief is on. And the more belief he puts in those things, the more he'll see it in his world. It's not really a concept of me blaming him for creating these things in this world, or me saying, you did this. I didn't do that. And I find it fascinating that twice he said, I said that he made his wife do this, and he made his boss do that, and he made Donna. I never said any of those things. All I said is you're the creator of your experience. All I said is God doesn't have a plan that's out of your control. But he made it very personal. Why? Because when the debate is lost, slander does become the tool of the loser. His argument was a losing argument from the beginning. And because it was a losing argument from the beginning, he had to start pointing a finger. And once you start pointing a finger, you are no longer pointing it towards yourself. You're no longer focused on how you can change the world. You're focused on how others have screwed up the world. And when you deal in that way with the world will show you people who are screwing up the world. And I don't mean to be hard on anybody, and this is not being hard on. This is just putting my finger on truth. You create your experience, and this is a prime example of someone creating a negative experience. This is a prime example of someone choosing to focus on the negative aspects in the world and creating more of it in his life. He will live a mad and frustrated and bitter life as long as he stays focused and believing in that. and I live a joyful life. You watch my videos, you'll notice I laugh in almost every one of them. There's a couple I haven't, but I laugh in almost every one of them. It's because I literally laugh at things. I find things funny because I live in a loving world. I live in a joyful world. And when I read his comment in the beginning, and I laughed because I was like, he's saying that, this is happening and that's happening. I believe this and I believe this and I believe this and I believe this. And he's seeing this, 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 and this. And so I laughed because he basically said in his comment what his world was and what he created. And you can see the anger and the bitterness in his responses because of the fact that he's creating that experience. He is literally creating the experience because God has said, whatever you ask is granted if you have faith. He did not say, whatever you ask is granted if you have faith and it's good. He never said that. He said, whatever you ask is granted. He didn't say, I am creating this for you. I have a giant plan for you. I have this giant mission that you have to achieve. He never said any of those things. Whatever you ask is granted if you have faith. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can ask a mountain to move and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. When you pray, believe you shall receive and you shall. That's biblical. What you think you become, you create your world. That's Buddha. You are the culmination of your thought. That's the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, right? That is, it's all there. As a man thinketh, so is he. That's biblical. I think, therefore I am. Descartes. There is nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. Shakespeare. I should say that with an English accent. There is nothing good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. That's my old Shakespeare language. Good, my friend. Shakespeare we speaketh. But the point, this was a great topic and a great video to talk about because in reality, his actual comments show my point perfectly. And you guys have a great day and create something beautiful into your world. Talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.
Thank you so much for watching. The John of New channel is solely funded by your generous donations and purchases of private readings and merchandise. To help out, go to johnofnew.com or use the donation link in the description below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.